From one bloody setting to the next, today's artist, as both art director and production designer, has had no problems incorporating the blood, and we are there for it. Yes, we are in Season 3 of Oscar Rewind, and today I am looking at United Artists and MGM's classic horror film, Carrie. Written by Lawrence D. Cohen, based on the novel by Stephen King, and directed by Brian De Palma, the film opened right after Halloween in 1976. What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike here, and it is a new episode of Oscar Rewind, where I look back at the films of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these good throwbacks. Today, we continue with Chapter 4, Designed for the Big Screen. This chapter is focusing on the production, costume, makeup, and hair design nominees that thrilled the eyes of Oscar voters, and today we look at some of the early work of Jack Fisk, who earned his 4th Oscar nomination this year for production design on Marty Supreme. 50 years ago, he served as the art director on this film with plenty of corn syrup to boot. Hey, if you know, you know. If you've never seen Carrie, here is your quick spoiler-free setup. Carrie White, played by Sissy Spacek, is a sheltered girl being raised by a very strict, God-fearing, Bible-quoting mother, Margaret, played by Piper Laurie. Quiet and put upon, Carrie, age 16, is very shy and virtually friendless. One day, while showering in the high school locker room after losing a volleyball game, something resident mean girl Chris, played by Nancy Allen, won't let up on. Carrie has her first period. Not sure what is happening, she begins to scream, thinking that she's dying, but her peers laugh and berate her, and as I am describing this as minimally as I can, until Miss Collins, their teacher, played by Betty Buckley, breaks it up and helps Carrie as best she can. When she gets home, crying to her mother for an explanation of what happened, Margaret just berates her for becoming a woman and locks her in a closet to pray. Upset at the students, Miss Collins puts the entire class under detention and reminds these students that if they don't participate, they don't go to prom. Chris, not having any of this, walks out and tries to figure out her revenge. Meanwhile, Sue Snell, played by Amy Irving, another girl in the class, feels bad about what she did, so she asks her boyfriend Tommy, played by William Catt, to ask Carrie to the prom. She wants to do something nice for Carrie, genuinely. Word gets back to Chris that this is happening, and seeking the help of her boyfriend Billy Nolan, played by John Travolta, she plans a revenge that Carrie will never forget. Also, in the midst of all of this, Carrie has begun to notice that she has certain abilities, and while she figures this out, she does eventually agree to go to the prom with Tommy, despite Margaret's pleas. As we get to the prom night, well, it will definitely be a prom to remember, and like the poster says, if you've got a taste for terror, take Carrie to the prom. I have to say, this is one of those films that you think everyone has seen, but as I have recently discovered, not so much. So that's why I was very selective in my summary, in case those of you familiar with the film wondered why didn't I reference certain things. Carrie is an ultimate horror staple in the genre, and not just because of big jump scares, because there really aren't any, but it's really for the smooth execution of the way that tragedy and horror elements play out. In fact, I kind of don't qualify this as a horror film. I look at it more as like a psychological thriller. This is not blood and guts, although there is blood aplenty, and like I said, if you know, you know. And it's worth noting, Stephen King, one of the most adapted writers of all time, and famously protective of his work, has only said positive things about De Palma's adaptation. Some of it is a little larger than life, and some of the acting choices are very big, but it works so well, and especially in Spacek's Carrie and Laurie's Margaret. Their performances are truly worth the price of admission here, especially when we get to the third act after prom scene. Spacek's, meek Carrie and Laurie's over-the-top Margaret are the perfect yin-yang, and while they do tip a bit into extremism, it never actually feels like bad acting. Some performances a little bit, but not those two. And at its heart, even though this is a horror thriller film, it's really just at its heart a coming-of-age story about a very confused, ill-informed young woman, and it's really hard not to feel sympathy for her as she deals with everything she does, especially with the way Spacek plays her, although she does get some good swings in. In many ways, the performances and slow burn of the thriller elements, it really actually allows this film to hold up so well this many years later. Many of the themes, the bullying, the zealotry, the trauma, teenage cruelty, are still prominent today, and so it stands the test of time. Are the effects and the visuals a little dated? Yes, some laughably so. I mean, even those who have lived in the 70s, often say there were some mishaps with fashion and hair. But then there are some, things in this film that are really still thrilling. And this is where the work of Jack Fisk comes in. I mean, the prom scene, one of the most famous scenes in film history. I'm not going to say horror, I'm going to say film history. Fisk as art director alongside William Kenny, helping bring Robert Gould's vision to life. They created these images that have permanently been etched into history, into our minds. Working with the stunt and visual effects team had to be quite a delight, as set pieces were rigged to cause quite a terrorific prom. Additionally, Pino Donaggio's ear-piercing score is memorable and hints to some other classic films, as we hear, the stark moments of Carrie finally coming into who she is meant to be. Have I made you want to go watch this one yet? Now let's talk box office and awards. Carrie has had several re-releases, both domestically and internationally, so in its 50-year life, it currently sits with $33,800,000 domestically and $63,056 internationally, for a worldwide take of $33,063,056. Critically, the film is at a 94% on the tomato meter from 82 reviews, and a 77% popcorn meter from over 250,000 audience reviews. See, the critics liked this one. Award season-wise, in its release, the film had about a dozen nods and wins, including 2 Oscar nominations, Best Actress for Spacek and Best Supporting Actress for Laurie. Laurie was also nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Golden Globes, and Spacek was named Best Actress of the Year by the National Society of Film Critics. And to show its resonance, in 2010, The Guardian named Carrie one of the greatest horror films of all time, and in 2022, the film was selected for the National Film Registry by the National Film Preservation Board. Carrie's one of those films that I wish I had seen earlier than I did. I mean, I wasn't born when it came out. I think the first time I saw it, though, I was maybe 10 years ago. But I still had an appreciation for what it did, and as I've seen it more over the years, I just appreciate it more. And it's a really powerful, well-made 4-star film. It's not quite perfect, but many of the elements are. Now, if you haven't seen Carrie, and hopefully you go out and watch it now, it is streaming on Tubi and Pluto with ads, or on MGM's streaming site, or you can rent or purchase it on most digital platforms. And for this one, I'll be honest, you don't want ads taking you out of it, my small pitch. And given that it's the 50th anniversary, I'm sure there are going to be some screenings later this fall. And that's it for episode 33 of season 3 of Oscar Rewind. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, check out the other playlists, and let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Stephen King adaptation? Please follow me on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and check out my website, cinephilemike.com, for more exclusive cinematic content. I will see you all for the next Rewind, but until then, this is Cinephile Mike saying to take a break and watch something new.